Burma becomes the crucial battleground on the Asian mainland. If the Allies can reopen the supply lines between India and nationalist China, the Japanese will have to deflect troops and material away from the war in the Pacific. British and American forces use unconventional warfare tactics behind Japanese lines. They make contact with local tribes and organize them to fight the Japanese. The Americans also send men from the newly formed OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, precursor of the CIA, to support local groups, both nationalist and communist. In return for intelligence, an OSS group, codenamed Deer Team, supply Ho Chi Minh's Viet Minh with weapons and training. Ho Chi Minh.
Now the opportunity has come for our liberation. The Japanese are bogged down in China. They are hamstrung by the British and the Americans and cannot contend with us. If our entire people are united, we will smash the French and Japanese armies. Compatriots, rise up to fight the French and the Japanese.
In late 1944, as the Japanese Empire in Asia begins to crumble under the overwhelming onslaught of Allied forces, Giap launches a general insurrection throughout Vietnam. By the middle of 1945, he has risen to the rank of general at the head of a force of 10,000 men. But fighting the Japanese is costly. General Giap.
Then came the terror. Whole families were arrested, their houses burned. Villages were razed to the ground. Those who had revolutionary papers were shot, beheaded, or had their arms cut off and displayed in the marketplace. Thousands of piastres were offered as a reward to those who brought in a revolutionary's head. We knew the struggle would be long and bitter. As early as 1941, Uncle Ho had warned us that the fight against the Japanese was only the beginning. He knew that the British and the Americans had the same motives as the French. They were all imperialists.
An OSS training camp in Burma at the end of the war. Events in Asia are developing rapidly. Ho Chi Minh's prediction proves to be accurate. In March 1945, the Japanese army overthrows the French administration and replaces it with a puppet government under Bao Dai, the Emperor of Annam. August 25th, Rangoon, Burma. Lieutenant General Takata Numata arrives from Saigon to surrender Japan's Southern Army to the Allies, following Emperor Hirohito's order that Japan endures the unendurable and accepts defeat. Ho Chi Minh.
This is a great advance in the struggle waged for nearly a century by our people. The National Liberation Committee is now our provisional government. Unite around it and see to it that its policies and orders are carried out throughout the country.
As the Viet Minh moves to take control of the country, Allied troops arrive, Chinese nationalists in the north and British in the south. Saigon, September 6th. Allied prisoners of war and French internees are released by the British. commander of British forces, allows the Japanese to retain their weapons to help him keep order. With a revolutionary government in control in many parts of the country, reprisals begin against those who are thought to have collaborated with the French and Japanese. Nguyen Xuan Phong, who will later become a senior diplomat, describes what happened to his family.
Of course, they imprisoned all the landowners. Anyone who had any kind of function under French rule. My grandfather was jailed because he was a village chief. Luckily, my uncle was at school with the Viet Minh leader and went to see him. He said, "Why did you put my father in jail? He is harmless. He hasn't done anything cruel." So he was released after a few days.
Phong's grandfather is one of the lucky ones. Many are killed as the Viet Minh deals ruthlessly with those they call collaborators. Vietnamese fights Vietnamese for the first time. Independence is fleeting. Within months, with British and American support, French forces return and take control in the south as the Viet Minh are disarmed. In the north, Ho Chi Minh's forces are unable to prevent lawlessness by the Chinese Nationalist Army. He has little choice but to ask the French to return to restore order. Once again, Indochina is ruled from Paris. Although the Americans are sympathetic to the cause of Vietnamese nationalism, the post-war ideological chasm between the democracies of the West and the communism of the Soviet Union dooms Ho Chi Minh's revolutionary government